Hi, I'm Darren with Northern Auto Restoration, and I'm here to talk to you about this project that I'm doing behind me, the 1951 Jaguar XK120. Come on, let's have a look. This car I picked up not quite 2 years ago. It had another body on it. This isn't the original body, but when I picked it up, it had a rebuilt engine, XK engine. This one's a 3.4 liter. This is a later engine in an early car, and how you can tell is the head bolts here. A later car has the 3 studs on the front of the cam cover, whereas an early one doesn't have that. And an early car doesn't have the marker light housings. I had those removed because this is a later body. So this car is not a numbers matching car. The engine and the head are the block and the head are matching, but the chassis is an early car, and I purchased this body out of Detroit, Michigan, and the guy had this brand new rear end, unassembled, so I had to assemble it. And it came with the fenders over here. And with that car, I got an extra set of doors, hood, and what have you. The reason why is because the original body, when I got it, it looked good from a distance, but then once you take a closer look and had it sandblasted, there was a lot of filler, and the guy had just kind of looked like he used a torch or brazing technique to weld things together. And it wasn't straight, and it had a lot of body damage in the sense that, you know, once you set these cars on the ground, the sides start to fold in and they need to be straight like you see here. What I'm doing here is this is going to be a racing version because the race car that I'm trying to, the look I'm trying to go for is the race car. So I got bucket seats. I got the Brooklyn windscreen, which if you don't know, it takes out the original big large screen and puts the smaller glass like motorcycle windshield type style. Okay. So for suppliers that I recommend or have used or have experience with, for example, any panels, I got them from Portugal, a company called NSF, Coach Builders. Look them up. Very reasonable price. Another one would be Coventry, out of the UK, and they're good for a lot of the nuts and bolts and some of the gauges. You have to really shop around too. You'll find that the cottage, it's basically a cottage industry for this car. So yeah, you probably, well, the prices are pretty reasonable considering that the production numbers. But if you want a lot of the upgraded stuff, you want to look at Coventry Auto out of the UK. And I've used Barratt's for various items like shocks, and I think I bought the rad from Barratt's. They had a good kit for that. So it's funny because you're not going to shop at one place particularly for everything. You're going to basically shop around. So I recommend Welch Enterprises. Sometimes they have some used components that you can pick up from them, and they're out of Ohio. I believe it's Ohio. And I picked up the headlight pods. I would say they were a reasonable price. Probably could have got them. At the time, I didn't know. When I did the front end, I bought the parts from Barratt's, but because they don't actually build the components, they were like double the price, and you figure they have to mark up these items from the person that they get them manufactured from. But the best bang for your buck was the company in Portugal. Really reasonable prices. The quality, even though their website looked a little like from the 80s, but the quality of the stuff was amazing, and the communication from the guy there was excellent, and highly recommend them. And of course, sometimes you have to look at Moss Motors, formerly known as XK Unlimited, and they also had they have deals come on once in a while. And I got an actual set of brand new 54 spoke wheels for this car at like 60% off. I think I paid less than I bought those used ones for, shipped to my door. Of course, the UPS, you have to make sure they package them or double box them, because the UPS dropped 2 of the 4 and have a flat spot, and I had to repair it. So they ended up paying for that. I'm just trying to think what else, other suppliers I might have used. The Drivenman for the transmission, the drivenman.com. So check them out. They also, I think they have disc brake conversions. Coventry also had brake disc conversions for the front and the back, I believe. Oh, the interior, I purchased that through Barratt's. They have an upholstery line, and they're really a decent price for what you get. Now, I don't believe it's genuine leather, but even like just to get the interior with, I think they call it pleather, it's vinyl or something that looks like leather. Even if that's what it is, at least you're getting all the backing. And if you just want to replace it with genuine leather after it wears out, that was my idea. Pay less, you get to use it, get it right away. And if it wears out, just replace it with real leather. That was my theory on that. Some of the other things that I changed, I don't know if I talked about it yet, but the battery box is just bolted out on this side. I'm going to try this. Now, they typically weld them in. That one's welded in. But this one I bolted in with using the rib nuts. And I also use the rib nuts for the fenders, by the way. But my idea here is that this is removable so that we have access to the rear differential, so we can check the fluids. There's a dipstick on the differential, so we can check the fluids and also maybe add or change the fluid and make it easier for accessibility purposes. Okay, so let's get back to talking about the body. I wasn't going to go out and fabricate all these panels, which you can do, and I'm probably capable of doing it. Just don't have the place and the tools to do body panel fabrication. So I chose the next best thing, and I bought these panels, like the front fender wing bottoms, new doors, the bulkhead, the boot lid, and some of the smaller patches. Like, I could have made this, but you know what? They're real cheap. And so I decided to patch it myself. So when you're rebuilding a car like this, where you're going to find the damage is usually between what they did was they did overlap welding. So, for example, this pod was separate, and they just laid it on top and just tack welded it. Now, I did a complete weld because back then they didn't have MIG welding. They had basically torches, and they had some of the larger spot welders, but that would be about it. And the problem is that they didn't have weld through primer or anything, so they didn't paint these things. They just welded them to one another. And where the failure point is between where the like, for example, this headlight pod had the flange that comes out here, and they just spot welded it, so moisture would get in between the two pieces, and that's where your rusting would start. So if you have these, it looks good, but once you peel the lead off, you can see this one's been started to be leaded. But once you peel that lead off, you'll find that the lead will reveal holes, and that's where the problem was in here. So quickly, I'll stick with the bodywork. So the panels on this car, you can see, weren't poor on this car, but the guy who owned it before was just trying to do a quick job, get his car on the road. So he did a lot of patches over top of the existing bodywork, where you can see, again, you could have repaired this panel, but there's a lot of Bondo and just cruddy stuff underneath. Not poor by any standards. It could have been repaired, but I didn't want to deal with any of that smaller stuff. I just want a fresh new panel on because I can afford it. And yeah, did I have to go all the way up? No, but I did anyways. So remember, these cars used lead and not a lot of plastic filler. Now I'll use lead just because I don't want to put, a half inch of plastic filler. It just won't work in here. So I will go back with lead in some areas. And then I'll use a plastic filler on the surface, but very, very thin. Okay, so now I built this car. You can see, I'll just stand back here. So the front part here is all original 1954, with the exception that I then cut out the bulkhead and bought a new panel, bulkhead panel. This is all fabricated and sent from Portugal. And like I said, everything from Portugal was probably around 10,000 American. And then the car body that was very straight and well taken care of in that fashion, the doors still needed to be replaced because the doors are prone to cracking where the hinges meet. And we'll get into hinges as well. These are upgraded hinges. They're much thicker than the original ones, and they have bushings with greasable pins. So that's something to think about. As also, I added a 1/2 inch to the battery boxes. You can't see it here. So it could take a conventional 12-volt battery. These ones came with 2 6-volt batteries. And again, I'm not doing a purist thing. So again, I've done some upgrades, such as the electric water pump, and I have a USB Bluetooth distributor, no points, and it can be disabled with your phone. That's neat, but it's also more reliable. Okay, so the other upgrade I'm going to do is the 5-speed Tremec transmission, and you can see, yes, I have notched the cross member. Hard to see. Let me get some light. I've notched the cross member and just added this piece in here, and then this is the original one here, and I just ground it back, cut it to form around the transmission. And this is a kit that you get from the drivenman.com. Highly recommended. This is the second unit I purchased from them, and they're really good. This is a kit, comes with the drive shaft. It's geared for highway use, so it's got a taller 5th gear. If you're racing it, you can get a special gearing for just that. This is not going to be, I'm not going to be racing this car, so it's just for tall gears for the highway. It's got a backup light switch there as well, and a complete kit. Like I said, it's got the adapter plate to go from the bell housing to the transmission, and I got a complete new clutch and pressure plate. Going ahead with the stainless steel exhaust. It's not factory, of course, but I want longevity. When I picked up this car, it had the frame was powder coated and the engine was completely rebuilt. Had brand new components. In fact, had not been used at all. The floor is plywood in this car. As you can see, it's over there, and they'll be going in here. And I got the complete dash and all the proper gauges for the early car. So this will be an early looking car, but it will be done up as a race car. And for the Coolidge XK, I have an extra box, battery box, which you could probably modify for your car. I'm not using that piece. It was extra. I got it with this car. The idea how I'm building this car is the back separate, the sill plates are attached to the firewall, and then the front, the entire front here lifts off. So I'm going to paint the underneath. I'm going to put like a urea bed liner inside the fender wells to keep it clean, and also do the urea in here. And I'll do the insides of the rear fenders, and then I'll paint I'll do the bodywork. Then I'll weld the car together and then do the bodywork as one. But to keep it easier for working on, I'm going to keep it in 3 sections for now. And again, the insides are from the factory, were painted by hand, and they're black no matter what the car color is. Again, it doesn't bother me if you paint it the same color. It's just I'm going to keep it black because if I want to change the color of my car later on, it allows me to do that. So I think I'm going to go silver with this car. And if you would like, give me your opinion as to what color I should go with this car. Currently, I have a black interior, complete black interior, and I have another set of black spoke wheels. So my idea was to go red originally, that color red over here. But I've since changed my mind, and I'm thinking more silver, metallic silver with a hint of gold in it to give it that pewter look, classic look. With the black interior, I don't know if I'll put decals on it. I'll decide later, but right now that's kind of where I'm headed with this. But it comes down to it. If you're going to rebuild a car, a lot of times you can buy the panels cheaper than having somebody fix your existing ones. Unless your car's numbers matching and it's going to keep the value or increase the value of your car for whatever reason, sometimes it's not worth rebuilding the part. It's better just to buy a new one, because these are really good quality parts, and you can spend $3,000 and have somebody repair it, or you can spend $2,000 and get an actual finished one. Now you can see I'm just in the middle of working on the back, and I'm just putting the trim in for the rubber for around the back. And I just put this in last night, and you can see how they're pretty simple. And that's how that fastens in there. So they're pretty basic car. I'm going with a lot of the functional upgrades, like aluminum radiator with the electric fan, electric water pump. It has a computer that controls both the fan and the water pump, and it can run when the car's off. Now, the XK engine was proned. The water pump was not very good. The cast iron block and aluminum head didn't really cooperate together. When you got all the heat built up in the cast iron, when you shut them off and put them away, there's a lot of heat stored in that cast iron block, and it's coming up and could warp your head. Well, the heads were prone for warping, so you got to be careful. And that's why I'm trying to think ahead. I'm trying out the waterless coolant. This Evans waterless coolant. Keep the pressure down and the corrosion factor, because cast iron blocks tend to rust up, and the rust can block your cooling passages. The fun part with the fenders, once you get your door sills put on, what I basically did, every car is different. These are hand built, of course. And don't forget, the XK120 was the fastest car, production car that is, in 1950. In fact, the XK engine was used all the way up until the mid 80s before they stopped using that. And basically the V12 was two of these stitched together. Okay, so we would, what I would do is, or what I did was I basically cut the whole front of the fender off. Those will bolt up and match up with this face here. And then I have some pictures. I don't know if I'll insert them, but basically we mount the fender, and then the difference is we can then make our trim or cuts. So if there's anything missing or whatever, it fits better, and then we get it where the fender needs to be, and we weld everything together. Without doing that, you'd have a gap up here, and you want to match this gap. So if you just cut a little bit, then you're able to manipulate it and get it where it needs to be. And then when you mount the fender in, you can transition it to where the fender is, and also the alignment there. And then you just tack it together. Of course, you do a good butt weld. Butt weld, obviously, you're trying to avoid lap welds, and these cars were basically a bunch of lap welds. So again, let me know what you think. If you like this type of stuff, let me know what you want to see next time. If you have any questions or ideas, let me know. And again, I'm Darren, and this is my channel. Don't have really a name for it yet. Obviously, I have other channels. I do landscaping, so I have Northstead Landscaping. And if you want, you can check out my other channel. But again, thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.